and Sam's pretty busy.
Nice.
Today. Tomorrow we're going to learn in the evening after the Navi Shiur at 8 o'clock. Torah Banon or loso vaday doiches Shabbos. V'lo sofek doiches Shabbos. It's got to be a vaday orla. That's doiches Shabbos, not a sofek orla. The Gemara will explain what that means. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Shabbos. V'lo androgynous doiches Shabbos. Tanakama says that an androgynous you would not be doiches Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda Omer androgynous doiches Shabbos. He says that you would do a circumcision on androgynous. V'onush koris. And if he's an adult and he has not had circumcision, he gets koris. Then it says, or lots of vaday doiches Shabbos. V'lo noilad ben hashmoshes doiches Shabbos. If a child is born ben hashmoshes on Friday or ben hashmoshes on Saturday, the following Shabbos you would not do the milah because it might not be the 8th day. Then or lots of vaday doiches Shabbos. V'lo noilad kishu moel doiches Shabbos. If a child is born circumcised, then it's not doiches Shabbos. Beis Shammai says that a child born without a milah, without an orla, needs hatafas dam bris, and therefore would be doiches Shabbos. Beis Hillel says that a child born mole doesn't need hatafas dam bris. Both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree, and that's the halacha, that a child born mole needs hatafas dam bris. The foreskin is like buried. Let's say a non-Jew had a circumcision when he was a Gentile. Now he converts. Beis Shammai says you need hatafas dam bris. That's the halacha. Beis Hillel says you don't need to do a ger that was already gemal, doesn't need hatafas dam bris. Omar Mar, we analyze this baraisa. I mean, we went through a lot of this fakis. What does that mean, v'lo sofek? Lasuyimai. Lasuy hadatan rabbanon. Ben Shiva machalin aleas Shabbos. A child born in the 7th month is considered a viable infant, and therefore the bris of such a child is doiches Shabbos. However, ben ches ein machal aleas Shabbos. A child born in the 8th month is considered as if it's like an Evan. It's like a corpse. The Chazal did not think that an 8-month-old child can survive, and therefore its milah would not be machal Shabbos. And Sofik ben Zayin, Sofik ben Ches, if we're not sure what it is, ein machal allows a Shabbos. Why? Because ben Shmon areu ke'evan, a fetus born in the 8th month is like a stone, the asur l'tatalo. In fact, it's muktzah. The mother can sort of bend down and nurse the child without touching the child because of the sakana for the mother, not for the child, because her milk will accumulate and it would be a danger to her. Itmar Rav Amar halacha ketan nekam. Ushmolam halacha k'rashim edelosu. In terms of their understanding of what we said, Rashim Elazar said that really everybody needs, if you're noilet k'shumol, you need hatafas dam bris. The only machlokas is regarding ger. And that we also pass like Beis Shammai. Ravada Barava Isyalad Leahu Yanuka Kshumo. Ravada Barava had a child born, and it was born without a foreskin. Ahadre Atleis Moali. He went to 13 different moils because he felt that it requires a toughest dam bris. And they didn't want to do it because they paskin like Beis Hillel that if it's born mole, it doesn't require a toughest dam bris. So he did it himself. Ad Shavi Krushuf, and he made him a Krushufcha. He damaged the genitalia, so now he wouldn't be able to Yovel B'Kol. Omar Tesi Li the Avri Adarav. I must have been punished because I went against Bob. Omar Rav Nachman Vadishmul Ovar. You also went against Shmuel. Madamar Shmuel B'Chol. When Shmuel said you have to do Atofis Dam Briz, that's B'Chol. But the Shabbos Miyamar, he never said you could violate Shabbos. However, Ravada held that it wasn't a suffix that it was a buried foreskin. Who saw Ravada or Lakrushahu? And therefore you had to do Atofis Dam Briz. The Itman. Rabba Amar Chayshinan Shema or Lakrushahu. Rabba said that maybe there's a suffix that it's a buried foreskin. Rav Yosef Ravada or Lakrushahu. And he held like Rav Yosef. On Rav Yosef, no, I mean Allah. From where do we know? This is the Tanya. Rav Yezer HaKaper Oimer. Loi nechel kubei sham beis Hillel an noiled kushumol shetzarach latev menu dam bris. There's no machloikas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel that if a child is born mohul, it requires a tofes dam bris. Al man nechleku lachalav is a Shabbos. The only machlokas is should you do it on Shabbos if it was the 8th day. Beis Shammai on machalav is a Shabbos. We say machalav is a Shabbos. Lav michla must be the Tanakamas or machalav is a Shabbos. Not like the second version, but that you are mechal Shabbos. The Dilma Tanakama Divra Kol ein mechal in Komar. Maybe the Tanakama wants to argue and say Divra Kol you're not mechal. In Cain, Rabbi Ezra Kafir Tamed Beis Shammai also Lashmina. What he's going to give us the swore of Beis Shammai? We don't pass like Beis Shammai. What says Dilma Achi covered? Loinach will go Beis Shammai Sil Bedover Zeh. Perhaps what he meant is Beis Shammai still don't argue in this issue regarding if it's born mohul. The halach is if it's born mohul, we do atofes dam bris. Amar Vasi kol she'imo tmei leida. If the mother, through the birth of this child, has tumas leida, nimo l'shmona even on Shabbos. You have, and in fact, it gets circumcision on the 8th day. Because she'enimo tmei leida, ein nimo l'shmona. It will not be gemalt on Shmona if it's Shabbos. Shenemar, Isha ki sazrev yalda zacha v'toma, and then vayom hashmini yimo psor loso. So, for example, cesarean section, or a non-Jew that gave birth, and then on the second day was misgayer. So the din is you do circumcision on the first day. What right away? We don't paskin that way, but that was the sheet of Avasi. The previous generations will prove my point. I'll show you an example where the mother from Avram at Matan Torah, that there was no din of tumas later, that only came after Matan Torah. Yet they were mauled on the 8th day, like by Yitzchak. Omerle nitna Torah. B'nischat halacha. That when the Torah was given, the din changed. That only births that would lead to Tumas Leda would lead to a circumcision on the 18th. Versus Aini, it's not so. Vayitmar, Yotze Dofen, a cesarean section birth, Umi Sheyesh Lo Shtei Orlos, or a child that's born with 2 foreskins. So Ravuna Rav Chia Barav, Chadam Machalav is a Shabbos. One says you're Machalav Shabbos. Chadam ain't Machalav, you're not Machalav. But it's clearly Akan Lo Pligel Machalav is a Shabbos, Aval Lishmona Vadim Machalidan. You don't do circumcision on day 1, you do it on day 8. Well, the Machlokas is whether you're Machalav Shabbos or not. We hold you're not Machalav Shabbos. It's dependent on the following Machlokas Ketanoi. Yesh Yilid Bayis. So, if you own an Eved, Knani, who has had mikveh and milah, so he has certain mitzvahs. So or shivcha, and you have to mal children born in your household. Sometimes yesh li b'shanim la'echad, v'yesh li b'shanim l'shmona. Sometimes the children born in your house will be gemalt on the first day. Sometimes 8 days. Yesh miknas kesef shanim la'echad, v'yesh miknas kesef shanim l'shmona. People that you buy, like avodim, same thing. So yesh miknas kesef shanim la'echad, v'yesh miknas kesef shanim l'shmona. Ketzad. Lokach shivcha mu'beres. You bought a shivcha who was pregnant. And so there, and achakach yolda and gave birth in your household, zeh miknas kesef anima l'shmona. But lokach shivcha v'loda ima, if you bought the shivcha and the child separately, zui miknas kesef shnim l'echad. That's something that you bought that gets come out right away. Yesh yilid b'shnim l'shmona. There's sometimes a child born in your household that gets come out on the 8th day. Ketzad lokach shivcha v'nisabra etzlo. You bought a shivcha, she became pregnant in your household. The yolda and gave birth in your household. So you live by Sanim Lishmona. Rav Chama Oimer, yolda v'achkachitvila. However, let's say she gave birth and she had not gone to the mikveh yet. So she doesn't qualify as one's, that there's application of some mitzvahs to her. So that's an example of Yilid Bai Shnim Alecha. However, if you bought her and then you tefillah and you put her in the mikveh, now she has dinim like a shivcha knanis. That's a child born in your house that gets come out on the 8th day. It's only the Tanakam lo shanile bein hitvila v'achkach yalda bein yalda v'achkach hitvila. He makes no distinction when the tefillah was done. Afagav de'enimot tmei aleida nimo l'shmona. And therefore, it doesn't make a difference according to him. There's no connection between Tumas Leda and the necessity of getting gemalt by the 8th day. So, Bishmar of Chavim Mishkachos lo yilid bais nim molechot. Yilid bais nim molechet. Midas kesef nim molechot, midas kesef molechet. He has examples of all 4 parameters. Meaning, Yod of Achkach Vila, if he had not put her in the mikveh, Zeli by Shnim Alechad, and he'd be Achkach Yod, Zeli by Shnim Alechet. Right? And Miknas Kesef, when you buy something, Nima Lishmonot Gonchalok, Shivchu Muberes, if she was pregnant when he bought her, and then she gave birth in her house, and because he had done Tefillah already, Achkach Yod, Miknas Kesef, Nima Lechad, excuse me, that's a Nima Lechet. And Nima Lechad is Gonchalok, Zeh, Shivcha V'Zeh, Ubra. One person bought the maid, and a second master bought the child. Then you would, once the child is born, that connection to the shivchan, he would get nimod the one. That's the way Rav Chama explained. Elatama Kamo made no distinction between tefillah and not tefillah. So Bishmal Kulam Mishkachaslu. Okay, he can explain all of them, except Yilid Bayis Nimol Le'echad Hechi Mishkachaslu. He has no example because he makes no distinction between whether you were matbil or not matbil. Rav Yirmiyah, according to that Tamakama, it could work below kech shivcha ubra. Let's say a person buys a shivcha only for the purpose of the fetus. Hanich l'mandom kinyan peiros lavki kinyan haguf dami. So if you buy the peiros, you didn't buy the source, so there's no connection to the mother, and therefore that would be an example of of something born in the house that would get gemalt on the first day. And lamandam kinyan peiros kinyan haguf dami. But according to Mandama, who says that when you buy the peiros, you bought the mother as well, and now you have to look at the mother. The mother was in your house, and therefore it should be gemalt on the 8th day. Mike, Lamar, you have no example for that Tanakama of Nimo Le'echad. Amr of Mesharshe, yeah, I have an example. Belokech Shivcha al Menas Shelo Hidbila. He bought her specifically, I'm buying the Shivcha and I'm not going to put her in the mikveh. So she's going to remain a complete Goyata. With Goyata, and if it's born in your house, you would Nimo Be'echad. Tarshim Kamil Oimer, Kol Shishol Lamed Yom, Ba'adam Eino Nefel. A child has to be 30 days old to be considered viable and not necessarily a miscarriage. And that's why we wait to do the Pinyan Ben until they're 30 days old. Shenamar, Uftu Yav Ben Chodesh Tifter. Now, by a behema, Shmonas Yom in the behema, Eino Nefel. Shenamar, Umayom Hashmi Bahala, Yerotza LeKorban. An 8-day-old animal can be brought as a korban already. Now, if a child, therefore, is not 30 days, it's a suffix nefel. So the Gemara's question is, Mimel hechi malinan le. How do we gemal a child in the 8 days on Shabbos? How can you violate Shabbos for only a suffix that this is going to be a viable child? So it's a good question. We'll answer the question tomorrow in the tomorrow's blog.
All right.
Okay, by the way, it's tomorrow night. It's a small blot. It's a very small blot. So